Good morning, folks. How you doing today? Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with his Monday guest, estate attorney, good friend of the channel, Mr. Rylas Dana. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing awesome.
Thanks for being a part of the channel every week. Thank you for giving us some of your time. I thought we should start off the new year. We just talked about probate in episode 1. Why don't we talk about LLCs and entities in episode number 2? Why real estate investors often use those?
Yeah, so I love being a part of this community, and this is a topic that comes up quite a bit. So, the LLCs, what do you do? What's the right answer? So this is such a great topic. And I, in the private group, I saw, Dion was kind of ranting or almost, and saying that he doesn't have LLCs. He's bragging about the fact about that. And shout out to Dion. Like he's doing the work. That's the most important thing. He's getting the property. So like, I love that it's promoting, right? I love that. Don't wait until you do an LLC. Like, don't wait to invest until you have the LLC. So I definitely want to echo that and say it's not a reason to get hung up on.
Right.
And the other thing I'll say is there's not one answer for everyone.
That's the key for me.
Tell me what to do.
Yeah. That's why I will never answer that question. Right. Everybody talks about what is your entity structure? What do you like? What do you do? I won't answer it because I believe I don't know you, right? For all I know, you have a negative net worth and you haven't done anything. So if you have a negative net worth and you're just interested, guess what? You don't need an LLC because you don't own anything, right? There's nothing there. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a dangerous discussion that I will avoid just because I've got to ask like 30 questions. And again, I'm not an attorney, so I'm just not going there.
Yeah, so it goes back to the attorney thing. Well, it depends.
Exactly.
That's when you start asking the questions. But I would say, going back to our first video we did today, the one goal should be avoiding probate. If there's anyone in your life that you care about. I mean, that sounds kind of bad, but but some people don't really have beneficiaries, meaning that maybe they don't have any kids, they don't have a significant other. So if something happens, so what? Their parents, siblings, people can sort it out. Yeah. So, but I'd say that should be the first goal, like, taking care of that. And then beyond that, here's some things that an LLC can do for you. Here's some of the benefits of it. The main benefit is just separating it from yourself personally.
Correct.
Right? Instead of, Michael Zuber owning something, it's, ABC LLC owns it.
Right.
Now, again, I think Dion brings up good points, or I'm just kind of using him as the counter thing, or just the counter side is if you don't properly structure your LLC, you're not going to get those benefits.
Yeah, they'll pierce the veil, I think is what they call it.
Yeah, so I think people and maybe attorneys are trying to use some scare tactics to sell them, or the people that create entities.
I will be very clear on this. There is a whole cottage industry that their sole motivation, Rylas, is to sell complex entity structures to people that own squat. That industry exists, it is real, and it is horrible. I've known people to sign up for $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 complex entity structures in multiple states that own squat. That industry is horrible, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's great that you bring that up. And that's why this is such a hard topic, right? Because if they're out there preaching, this way that, scaring, fear, all of these things. And again, it's easy as an attorney to say, in my legal opinion, this is a benefit because of, X, Y, and Z. Boom.
Yeah, of course.
Now, how likely that is, I think that's why you and I don't like that, right? Like, let's make sure we touch on that, right? Let's touch on the likelihood of that, and whether you're ready for this type of investment.
Well, I actually think the worst thing is they treat it as the right answer for everyone. That's where I have a problem with the cottage industries. They're selling this $8,000 plan to everyone. And one thing I know about entity structures is, again, why I don't answer the lawyer questions, because there is no one size fits all. There just isn't. And that's why I hate that cottage industry that says, hey, we have to do this. It's got to be in 3 different states. It's got to be here. It's got to be maybe, but to sell it as the only answer is, I guess it's not quite criminal. It's I don't know. It's just makes me feel icky.
Yeah. So I would say I like the separation. We can debate on how much control how much advantages there are, and it's
Sure.
going to depend on exactly how you set it up, and then also how you're running your business. But I think there's things that you can easily do that are worth it, that they do give you some protections, even as a single member LLC.
For sure.
Even if you're the sole owner and you don't have any other partners, I believe that there's some value in that separation.
I agree.
Now, and here's another rules like all the time is you always have to register in whatever state you're in. So if it owns rentals in Texas, Hawaii, Arizona, Nevada, then your LLC better be registered in all those places.
Agreed.
And then that starts bringing up other questions. Well, is it better to have multiple and other things in other places? And again, it's going to depend on your personal situation.
Agreed.
Do you need an LLC for every property? Probably overkill for most people, I would say. And you just want to, you're always going to weigh of how much of a burden it's going to be, how much management, how much ongoing, annual type of fees.
Yeah.
The filing taxes.
I mean, in California, it's $800 no matter what.
Yep.
For each one.
So.
Yeah. The other thing we just need to realize is in today's lending environment, brand new LLCs are not treated very well, meaning it's hard to get a cheap 30-year debt. You can in the non-QM space. And again, we have one of those that we talk to every Friday, but that's just another reality. I often get the question of, hey, I've got a new LLC, but I can't get, I don't know, 3% money. I'm like, well, you can in your name, right? Because banks don't like new LLCs, no 2 years of tax returns and all of that. Or this, you can't have your bread and peanut butter at the same time, right? If you want to go LLC and buy it in that, then you have that debt structure. If you want the cheapest stuff in today's lending environment, it's over here. So there's a lot of stuff to think about.
Yeah, if there is any loans against the property, you want to consider, that's a whole issue, whether you can transfer into an LLC or not. And it's always in a contract. Every mortgage has that acceleration clause.
Sure does.
But it's rarely exercised. And we did a video on the past where I asked you, or at least just took the position that it's debatable whether you change the ownership.
Yes.
So, and that's a way, so when my clients, my main focus is estate planning, helping people set up their plans and then administering the plan or lack of plan. And then I'll help people create, like LLCs just to hold properties as part of their estate plan. But I don't get into the kind of the complex planning with them, like the specifics of the business and where it goes. Right. So.
Yeah. And again, these are all the important things. Again, what I want, when I hear about the LLC topic, again, I think it's that cottage industry that does a lot of people a disservice. They're trying to sell complex things and again, they haven't asked, like you go to the doctors, right? This hurts. Well, stop doing that. Well, maybe there's other things. I want people, and the reason you're a part of the channel, Rylas, is you ask those questions, right? Somebody calls you, you don't have one size fits all answers. I hate that, especially around entities.
Yeah, and my planning starts at the baseline of an estate plan.
Right.
And so my main focus is avoiding probate. And then on top of that, we add, different layers.
And you ask questions. What's your risk tolerance? How do you want to? Because maybe you want one LLC for everyone, but maybe your debt structure and your equity position goes, oh, you know what? I'll do 3 or some other number. That's what I wish would happen. And right now there is a cottage industry out there. I mean, there are entire conferences where people are selling, hey, somebody called me like a month ago. I think it was, they wanted something in Nevada, then like North Dakota or something. And I'm like, how much real estate do you own? Nothing. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's an overkill if you don't have the assets. And again, I'm always conscious of the management fees of it.
Yeah,
that's a good structure, but you're talking, thousands of dollars a year just to maintain it.
Yeah, and your whole plan's to have 2 rentals. Well, there goes your cash flow.
Yeah. So as far as risk tolerance, the point I wanted to get back to is the bank loan. And that acceleration clause. So I'm comfortable telling my people, I see a lot of people do it, where they'll, even though they have a loan on it, they'll transfer it into an LLC.
Mhm.
I see it as little to no risk because worst case scenario, the bank says, don't do that. Then you just transfer it back.
Oh, oops, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. My attorney said this is a good idea or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no harm, no foul type of a thing. So that's
Okay.
why I feel like, but you do, it is some risk, right?
for
Because
sure.
if you read the contract and it's going to say that, there's that acceleration clause.
Yeah.
So it's if you change the ownership.
Due on sale
Again,
clause, I think it's called.
yeah. So again, I think there's a good enough position at least. But the banks don't ask them because there's a good enough position for them or their legal team. They have to say no.
Oh no, I've had lots of people ask and nobody's ever gotten a yes answer. And they always point at the same thing. It's like this is everybody's call. I'm not telling you to do it or not. I'm not giving legal advice.
Yeah. And usually the banks don't want to answer that question, right? It's really hard to get an answer. And I think that's kind of the reason, because
Yeah,
if you
of course.
press them for it, it's going to be a no.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And you got to know that about banks. They're very conservative by nature, right? So this is fun. So Rylas, how can people find you? And if they are buying in California or Arizona, reach out to you to do some estate planning.
So RylasDana.com is where you can find me. You can find my law firm website there and all my contact info. And I'd love to help you set up your plan or administer the plan for your family, or the lack of plan too.
And again, folks, if you don't know what that means, lack of a plan is actually a plan. It's not good.
Yep. Yeah. There's always a plan.
There's always a plan. Rylas, man, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for this. We'll talk next week.
All right. Thanks, Michael.